Hello and welcome to our webinar this afternoon on the Lightning Conductor Add-In. My name is Brett Lonsdale and I'm going to be taking you through the Lightning Conductor and how we can use it to roll up or aggregate different SharePoint lists and document libraries from across different site collections in SharePoint Online. Those of you who are looking for SharePoint on-premises, we are going to be doing another webinar shortly after this one. That's going to be at 5 p.m. GMT, which is 12 noon Eastern time. So that will be later on today, and we'll be using SharePoint 2013 to demonstrate the Lightning Conductor web part. That said, the Lightning Conductor add-in can also be used in SharePoint on-premises, but the web part is far more powerful as far as some of the features are concerned. So today we're going to be in SharePoint Online. We're going to have a look at the Lightning Conductor add-in, as I mentioned, and how we can roll up lots of different types of lists, whether they're task lists or contact lists or document libraries, whatever they might be, or even some custom lists that you've built inside your environment as well. So hopefully everybody can see the screen okay, and just to also mention that the webinar is being recorded, so it will be available. We'll send out an email link so that you can find it after the event. So if you wanted to share it with anybody else, then you can do that too. So for those of you who have not come across Lightning Tools before, we're a company that formed just about 10 years ago to the day. We formed around the business data catalog back in late 2006, early 2007, and formed a product called BDC MetaMan that enabled you to access external data and make it available inside SharePoint. And since then, we've grown our product range to a total of about 10 products that we have currently in our range, although we've had some products come and go over the years. So Lightning Tools, we still specialize in business connectivity services, as well as permissions management, content aggregation, which we've been in that space for, again, almost 10 years, and also some data visualization as well, using products like our data viewer and also our charting product for SharePoint. Okay, so 10 years building web parts and tools for SharePoint. Prior to that, I was a instructor for SharePoint. I used to teach SharePoint development every week, pretty much. So all sorts of things like site definitions and web parts and event handlers and all sorts of things like that. Today, Lightning Tools has around 7,000 customers worldwide, majority of which from the US. And we've got a presence both here in the UK and also in the US as well. If you want more information on our products, you'll find our website, www.lightningtools.com, and later on I'll be showing you where you can find the Lightning Conductor add-in so you can download that, whether it's via our website or also from the Office store. So you'll be able to go to lightningtools.com in order to gather that information. And feel free to follow us as well. We do lots of tweets around SharePoint, not just our products, but other SharePoint-related tweets as well. So you'll find us on at Lightning Tools. All right, so let's get into the rest of the session. There's only about 3 more slides. These are just really to highlight the areas that we're going to be going through using the Lightning Conductor, and then the rest is going to be live demo. I hear you kind of cringing, thinking, Office 365 SharePoint Online live demo, what could possibly go wrong? Well, hopefully it won't. Hopefully the demo gods are with us today, and we'll be able to go through and successfully configure the Lightning Conductor without any interruptions to our tenant or anything like that due to internet connectivity or something. So the Lightning Conductor, it's a SharePoint list rollup tool. Hopefully that's what you're expecting. So you may have come across other rollup tools, some of which are available right out of the box with SharePoint. Again, if you're using SharePoint on premises, the content query web part, for example, has been around for years now. One of the issues, or one of the features, I should say, of the content query web part is that it can only aggregate SharePoint lists and libraries if they are within inside the same site collection. A couple of other features are you need to have at least the enterprise version of SharePoint on-prem to use it, and you need to have publishing switched on as well to make it available. And then really the fourth thing is if you need to create any views that might have multiple columns displayed with things like conditional formatting or data formatting or anything, you need to start working with XSLT, which is no fun at all, especially if you're an end user. So all of those things are really points that the Lightning Conductor can address. We can aggregate within the current site collection. We can also go across site collections, even in your Office 365 environment. Okay, there's the content by search web part that does the same thing. You can aggregate across site collections using the content by search. One of the, again, issues with that is when it comes to styling, we don't want to spend a lot of time just configuring a view to display when we want to maybe just include extra columns from our task lists or certain custom metadata from our document libraries. We want to be able to add that quickly and make the rolled up content look great. So they're really still the benefits is around styling when we're comparing the content by search with the Lightning Conductor. If you are in an on-prem environment, the Lightning Conductor can also aggregate across web applications. And also, what if you're a hybrid environment? Well, what you can do is use the Lightning Conductor in a hybrid environment using the search engine. You can roll up content from both environments. Whether you wanted to roll it up from Office 365 to on-prem or vice versa, you can just basically configure the roll-up for the view. So as we kind of just alluded to, you can also build views of your SharePoint list content. So let's just take an example there. What if we did want to roll up some tasks? Well, if we are rolling up tasks, and we probably need more than just the task title, which is what you were going to get with the content query web part. So if we want to roll up tasks, we're probably going to want to know the start date of those tasks, so when we should actually start working, the due date, when the project's got to be completed by, and we also might want to know who the task is assigned to, so we can maybe filter on that and see what tasks are assigned to me, or maybe tasks that are assigned to somebody else that I've delegated a task to. And we may also want to see the status of those tasks as well. Has it been started yet? Was it listed as a high priority task as well? Is something else that we might want to see. So all of these columns are columns that we might want to add when we're configuring a rollup. And what we can do with the Lightning Conductor is simply just go through, create a view, and tick those columns that we want to make available. Not only that, we can also create our own calculated columns. Now, these are columns that don't have to exist already in the list themselves. But if we want to do a quick calculation between some of the existing columns inside the list, whether that's just a simple subtraction like start date from due date or something like that, or a concatenation of certain columns like first name plus last name in a contacts list, or something more complex, we can actually drop in quite a bit of JavaScript there and build something more complex that maybe does some image displays or KPIs or something along those lines. So all of those things we can do conditional formatting, we can group as many levels as we like of content, and we can do all of our data formatting as well. Now that's important when we've got things like the percentage complete column in a task list. Those of you that have already tried to do a content query on that will probably see that it is formatted as a decimal. So something 50% complete will see 0.5 and so on. The Lightning Conductor, you can just simply say format this as a percentage, and it will be formatted in the way that you prefer. So that's just a simple setting. You don't have to spend any time in any XSLT or anything like that to achieve that. We'll also look at some of the built-in views. So as well as creating views in the Lightning Conductor, there's also some views already created for you. And you've got the option of using some of our built-in JSON views or XSLT views. These ones you can just select and they'll display. You can also tweak them if you want to as well. So if you wanted to use our calendar view, but you wanted to color coordinate some of the different categories in a calendar, then you could do that. You can also display task lists in a calendar as well. It doesn't have to be calendar items. And we've got a new timeline view as well, which you can also use with tasks that we'll be looking at a little bit later on. Okay, so they're the things that we'll be going through. And also want to point out that really the main benefits of this is you don't have to write any code yourself to create a good looking roll-up. You can do this yourself, and that isn't just a case of, well, you should do it yourself. It's a case of, well, how much time and effort is involved to have maybe change requests every time you want to add a new column to a roll-up. Using some code in your organization. Some bigger organizations will require these processes, which can be expensive to to complete. So with the Lightning Conductor, you can very simply build views without having to spend too much time at all working with the product. So there's a few scenarios that we'll take a look at. Really, it's any SharePoint list or library that you can aggregate, but some different scenarios that some of our customers use. We'll be taking a look at tasks and rolling them up. So maybe we want to look at all of my tasks and display them in one place. So the nature of SharePoint is we've got perhaps multiple site collections, lots of different sites in each of those site collections, and I don't have time to navigate to every single site every day to see if somebody's created a task for me and assigned it to me, or even if there's just a high priority task that I should overlook. So what I can do with the Rollup tool is just simply display that in one location, one site that I visit regularly, whether that's the top level site collection or wherever it is. I can just bring all of those tasks and display them in one place. From there, I can also view and edit each task as well. I don't have to navigate back to the team site to make any changes. I can do it using the Lightning Conductor. We could also have tasks grouped by priority and status. So due to the multi-level grouping, we could see all of our high priority tasks first, and then we could also see which of those high priority tasks are already progressing, and so on. Also, the calendar view, which we've mentioned, is another good one. So we'll come through and build that in a second. And then onto documents. We might want to display documents, maybe matching a particular content type. So if you have maybe customer proposals or something like that as content type, we could display them all in one place. But also things like documents that you created or documents that you last modified, documents that are awaiting approval from any document library. These are useful views to establish. Also, one that we see quite often is top 10 announcements. So every single team site has an announcements list. We could simply go through and aggregate all of those, maybe show the top 10 most recent announcements, something along those lines. They can also be audience targeted as well. So if you do use audiencing, then you'll see the announcements that are relevant to you based on your user profile. And then maybe finally, another one that comes up quite often is you've got a contacts list in one site, people want to display it in another site, or even you've got multiple contact lists, you want to have just one view of all of those contacts. All right, so before we go any further, let's take a look and build some of these. So here we are in SharePoint Online. I don't have anything configured just yet. We're going to go through and build it from scratch. So what I'm going to do is first of all just edit the page. Now with a SharePoint add-in, I should point out where you can actually go and obtain it from first of all. So with a SharePoint add-in, we can go and grab this from the App Store. So if you go to add an app with inside your tenant, you can go to the SharePoint store. And in there, if you simply do a search for the Lightning Conductor, then you should find it quite quickly. There it is. So we can go and obtain it from there. Just simply click onto that and click Add It. So it's already added to my environment, so it's not going to obviously add it again. Okay, so that will add the add-in to the environment. It will then appear within the site that you added it to, and it will appear under recent, so you can access the add-in straight away. We can access that just by navigating to the page and then build our view. However, what's more useful than that is to actually add it onto the page so that it's more in front of the user when they navigate to the team site. So what I'm going to do is first of all go through and edit this page here, and we are going to drop our cursor inside the first web part zone or layout page, I should say, and we'll go through and add a app part. Now, because the Lightning Conductor is already added, it's actually created me a few different entries in here. There's some already configured Lightning Conductors that you don't have to do anything with, just add them to the page, that's it. So we have an announcements rollup, we have a documents rollup, and we have a tasks rollup, and they will do exactly what they say on the tin. They're just going to roll up tasks, documents, or announcements, and the view will already be created for you and everything. You can just go back and tweak them if you want to change them at all. However, this one here is the unconfigured Lightning Conductor, so we're going to configure it from scratch to do what we want. So I'm just going to basically select that and click Add to drop it onto the page there. Okay, so we've got the Lightning Conductor, and one little tip here, the Lightning Conductor initially allows you to create a view per app part. So when I click the Actions menu, we can go through and configure the Lightning Conductor. But a nice little tip is we can basically go through and edit the web part properties. So in the right-hand corner of the app part, we can go through to Edit Web Part. And in here, there's a Views section, which I'm going to expand, and we'll tick Enable Views. And what that allows me to do is build multiple view instances inside the same app part. So if we want to have all tasks, or all tasks assigned to me, or all tasks due today, that sort of thing, all inside one web part, but we just select the relevant view like you would do in a standard SharePoint list, then we can do that. So you'll notice the difference here now is when we click onto the Actions menu, instead of just saying Configure Lightning Conductor, we've now got Configure View, Create View, and Delete View. So we can create as many views as we like inside this instance. So I'm going to hit Create View. And that's going to open up the dialog box for me where I'm going to do all of the configuration for this instance. And the first thing that we're asked for is the view title. So I'm just going to go through and name this Tasks. Okay, we can set a view priority, so where that view basically appears in the list of views. And we've got a couple of other things here that we'll perhaps jump back and forth to as we go through and configure it. First one is the data source provider. Now that's quite important. We've got two data source providers. One is basically the CSOM, the client-side object model, which we use to go and roll up content. Due to the nature of the client-side object model code running inside an app, that will be restricted to just a current site collection. But we will take a look at that, and we'll see how we can roll up content with it. The advantages of using the object model as a rollup provider is basically you get instant results. So if we're rolling up tasks from the current site collection, somebody adds a new task into a list, it will be rolled up straight away using the Lightning Conductor. We don't have to wait for any search indexing or anything like that. Likewise, if somebody makes a change, we're going to see that change immediately. The rollup provider does allow me to go across site collections. In fact, we can aggregate anywhere in the tenant, or also, as mentioned, in a hybrid environment as well. So two different options there, depending on what you want to do, and that will change the data source tab. So the data source tab is configured differently depending on what the first choice was. So first of all, I'm going to select the object model rollup provider. We'll go through that, and then we'll have a look at the search one afterwards. We then have another choice as well, and that is how do we want to build our view. So three different choices. We've got the grid view. This is the no code option. We can basically choose the grid view display provider, and we can go through and select the columns that we want to see. We can set all of the styling options that we want. We don't have to write a single line of code, just hit save and you'll have your view created. The other two, you could write your own XSLT. You could also write your own JSON. If you wanted to use some jQuery or something like that to build a view, then you can. But we do have some styles already built in as JSON and XSLT styles, which I'll be showing you as well. So there are our first choices, and initially I'm just going to use the default options. I'm not going to change those whatsoever. So all we've done here is provide a view title, and that's it. So we'll go on to the data source tab. And this is where we can go through and configure the options to roll up our content. So because we're using the object model, this allows me to go through and choose whether I want to aggregate content from the entire site collection. That's the current site collection that I'm in. So we could have hundreds of sites inside this site collection. We can include all of those in the rollup. Or we can go through and select the sites that we want to include. So if we choose that option, we'll then use the tree view control beneath it to basically go through and select the sites that we want to include. And we could also go through and choose from multiple lists as well if we want to, so we can go and grab the actual list And that's useful if you just want to take a contacts list from one site and display it in another, or if you want to build a view of contacts from 2 or 3 lists or something, then you can basically go through and configure it that way. So I'm going to go from the current site collection, and we're going to go through and select the type of list, of which this one is tasks. So I'll select that. I could filter more by choosing content type as well. So the content types shows all of the out-of-the-box content types. It would also show you any custom content types that you've created. So if we'd created a content type that derives from tasks and customize it to suit ourselves, and we could roll up all tasks only if they use that content type, and so on. So that's a great way of filtering out the results. We could also choose tasks and any child content types is another way of doing it. So I'm just going to leave it as all content types, anything from a task list with all content types. Over on the right hand side we have some filter options. So these filter options are basically depending on whether you want you as the person who's configuring the Lightning Conductor to set the filters, whether you also want to allow users to set their own filters, or whether you want to have a bit of both. So you could, for example, aggregate tasks, and you want to show all the tasks that are due in the future. You're not too concerned about tasks that were due last year or anything like that. So that's a filter that you could put in place. But then end users could come in and further filter it. So if they wanted to filter by priority or filter by status or something like that, then they can do so. So that's the option I'm going to choose, is the persistent and the dynamic filter. The dynamic filter being the user that's going to be selecting the filter value. We've also got the number of items to return. I'm going to leave that blank, which will be unlimited. And this is where common sense prevails. I get asked all the time, what is the actual limit of items that we can return? And it really depends. I know that's a standard SharePoint consultant's answer, but it does depend. Some of the things that affect performance the most are not the number of items, but how many items have broken permission inheritance, how many filters do we have in place, things like that. All of these things actually slow it down. So you might think, well, we're displaying less items because we're only showing the ones that I have access to. But if it's having to work out which ones I do have access to, then that's going to be slowing it down quite considerably. So performance typically isn't an issue here. And I'll prove that a little bit later on by showing you some of the performance figures that we get. But really there is no item limit. You can use that to your advantage though. So if you wanted to do things like the top 10 announcements, filter by descending order and show the top 10. So you can set a limit of 10 items there to be returned. So on the columns tab, this is where we can go through and create our view. So you'll notice here that we've got lots of different columns available, and these are the columns that are basically available to the lists within the scope of my Rollup. So I said the current site collection, so it's looking at all of the task lists within inside the current site collection to determine what columns are available for me to display. If I've got some custom columns in there, then you should see that they display as well. If we want to, on the previous tab, we can actually just go and specify a list as the template. So if you've created a custom task list, it has a particular column that none of the other task lists have, then we can actually point to that list and say, I want to use the columns from this list. So we'll basically go through and build our view. So what I'm going to do is take the task name. Question you might be asking is, why do you see task name 3 times? That is because it is there 3 times in the list. Notice as we hover over that, we see the link title. So that's the underlying name. So we've got the link title no menu, and also just title. So the one that I selected, the one at the very top, is the one that is just title. So the display names are the same for those 3 columns that have a different underlying name. So I'll take the task name column, and what I want to show you is that we can just simply drag this column and drop it right at the very top. So this will become the first column from the left hand side in my view. So we've got the task name. I can go and grab some other things like the percentage complete column. We want to show that, who the task is assigned to, and we also want to see the due date. So we'll select the due date in here as well. So we've selected the columns that we want to see, and I'm also going to show you the priority column, so I'll just select that one. We could sort by multiple columns, so maybe we're going to sort by the task name and also by assigned to. So we can choose which one of those sorts takes priority. Do we want to sort by assigned to first or task name first? Maybe due date first, and so on. So when we're sorting, we basically get to specify those values there. And then to unsort, just set those back to none again. And we can also sort with inside the Lightning Conductor results as well if we want to. Okay, filtering. If you want to filter on any columns, we can. So you'll notice that the filter options will vary depending on the data type. So if I go to the assigned to and we go to set a filter on it, you'll notice things like we've got the me checkbox there. So I can say the assigned to is equal to me or contains me, something along those lines. We've also got by date, so we can filter by date. Sorry, it's remembering the other one still. So on my due date column, we can say any item is due today or due in the next week. So we've got the days offset there, and we can make them negative as well, which is great. And we've also got the ability to do advanced filtering as well. So this allows me to filter across the columns. So we can add nested filters. So if I want to have an OR, here we'll basically go through and add a couple of rows. So I can say the priority is equal to high. So in the drop down here, we'll see the values available to that column. So I can say the priority is equal to high, or the due date is equal to today, and we'll offset that by 7. So any time in the last week, if that task was due or it's a high priority, then we'll just show those tasks. So going across columns is really handy with the advanced filters there. Onto the display tab. These are the columns that we selected, and this is where we can do some data formatting and conditional formatting and things like that. So under percentage complete, I actually want to show that as a percentage. I don't want to show it as a decimal. So we'll change the display format. Assigned to, we can apply formatting if we want. The due date, we can do things like long date or short date and so on that. We can also overtype that. So notice how we could delete those entries and we could put in our own date format in there if we wanted to. Otherwise, it's going to pick up the regional settings from the environment and apply the short date formatting to it. So this is where we can also group. So I'll group by the priority column. If we did group by multiple columns, notice that we could also change the grouping order, like we did with the sort order. We can choose whether or not we want to display a column. Well, it kind of makes sense if we're grouping by it, then we don't actually display a column for that field as well. So I could hide that. And we've also got the formatting here. So what I'm going to do is we'll format anything that's high priority. In fact, no, we won't. We'll go back to the columns and let's go through and add the completed as well. So under the display tab here, we'll add some conditional formatting. So we'll choose to apply our formatting to the entire row, select a background color. So we can choose a color here, maybe make it bold or whatever we want to do. And I can say completed is equal to yes. We'll tick that box. Okay, so that will apply some conditional formatting to that row or to those rows. We also have a summary column. So this allows us to do some averages or totals, that sort of thing. So we can basically select from maximum, minimum, average, count, and so on. We can display that at the end of each group. So we could have a count going on. I'll show you that a little bit afterwards. And in here we can also go through and set which column we want to link on. So this doesn't have to actually be the title column to open up the item. You can set the link on any column you like. So that will hyperlink to the item itself. You can do things like show the drop-down menu as well. So if we wanted to have that drop-down menu display with a view or edit item, we can do that. We can link to the item directly, which will control the behavior on how we open up documents and things if we're rolling those up. The document icon, if we're rolling up documents, is useful. And so it's things like grouping by folders. We'll have a look at that very, very shortly. So I'm going to have my groups expanded by default. We can set how many items per page we want to show, where we want the pagination controls to be, and we can also choose where we want those summary rows to be as well. So these are all options that we can go through and configure. At the bottom here is the no item returned message. So let's say we're filtering on the tasks that I have to do today, and if it doesn't return any, then rather than just displaying a blank Lightning Conductor web part, we could actually have a message there such as "Go home, you're done for the day." So it can be a sort of personalized message that would mean that we know that there's no items to be rolled up. So we're happy we can hit save, and that will save our configuration, and then it will begin to aggregate the data. So there we go. If we just simply save and close the design view of this page, and notice that the page is allowed to load, followed by the results inside the Lightning Conductor instance. So it retrieves its data, and we can now see all of our items with the conditional formatting applied for that one completed item as well. So that's it completed. You'll also notice we can obviously navigate to those items too. When I clicked onto that item, it did actually open it up for me in a new tab. We can control that behavior as well. So I can have it open up that item in context with the page that I'm on, or we can just simply link to the page containing the item. So that's another setting within the Lightning Conductor. But otherwise, we can apply sorts here. We can also do filters and so on as an end user as well. And you'll notice that view has been created here, so we can go through and add multiple views to it if we desire. So the next thing we're going to do is build a rollup from multiple site collections. So I'm basically going to go through and create another view inside the same instance. So we'll call this one Documents, and this is where we'll show off some of the performance as well with the number of items that we're returning. What I'm going to do is this time use the search rollup provider, so we can go across the site collections, and we're going to stick with the grid view display provider for now. And later on, we're going to come and turn this option on, the statistical information, which will show you how many items are being returned. So from the data source tab, this is changed now. So where we used to have a tree view that we could go through and select if we're using the object model, this is using the result sources that are configured in the search. And to roll up all documents, all I need to simply do is go through and create the documents rollup source. That's one that you will have out of the box inside your tenant. If we wanted to roll up from a certain content type, we can basically choose that. So we can select the content type, and then we can go choose the content type ID. This is where we can go through and grab tasks or whatever it might be that we want to include in our rollup. So I'm going to go through and set that to documents, which is the default. Now we can change the query text if we want. There's lots of different parameters here that we can select from. So if we want to change where those items are coming from, list the site collections or anything like that, then we can do. I'm just going to leave it that it will come from all of the site collections. You can also do that down here in the scope parameter, set the site collections that you want to include, as well as the item limit and so on. On the columns tab, this is where we can go through and again build our view. So I'm just going to do this quickly. This time we'll go through and select the author of the documents. I want to see the file size, another useful one to see, and we'll go and grab the title, or better still the no, that's okay. We'll go with title. We could go with title or name, so let's go with title. And again, I'm just going to simply drag that up to the very top here. Lots of different columns that you might include, things like version, created by, modified by, things like that are all document types. And if there's a managed property that's not shown because it's not included in the result source, you can go through and configure that as well using the managed property option at the very top here. Otherwise, we can go for each one, set the sort order, set the filters, etc., as we did before. On the display tab here, we've got those three columns shown. So let's go through and do some data formatting. I don't like to see the file extension, so I'm going to set no extension to the title. And on that title column, I'll also display the document icon, so we can determine the type of document from the icon displayed. The author, we will show a hyperlink, so we can link to the author's profile page, and the size we could control whether we want to see that in kilobytes, megabytes, or gigabytes, and so on. Again, of course, we could do the conditional formatting, we can do the same summaries, we can do the same grouping, and as we scroll down here, let's choose which column we want to link onto. We'll choose to open up the document directly if we click onto it, and we can also group by folders and hide empty folders, and we can also choose whether those folders are going to show as expanded or collapsed. So the Lightning Conductor will actually maintain your group structure of the folders so that you can open and close the folders as you would do inside a standard SharePoint document library. We'll set the items per page here, and I'm going to set that to be 100. In fact, let's just up it a little bit because I do want to show off the performance, so I'll change that to 500 per page. And then we can also, again, change things like summary rows and messages, etc., that get returned. So we're done with that. Let's just hit save. Okay, and you should now see the documents on the page. And what we have here is 500 documents have come back. So as we scroll down, you can see all of those documents are returned, and we can paginate our way through them and so on. So in the drop down here, I'm just going to basically go through to configure view, and this will allow us to just talk about the performance a little bit. So let's go through and display the statistical information, and we'll hit save. So displaying the statistical information is not really something that you'd want to leave on there permanently. It's just good to test as you go through and configure the Lightning Conductor, so you can see how quickly some of these results are going to be coming back. So you can see here that we've got from 21 lists, we're returning 500 items. That's in the pagination. So those first 500 items are from 21 lists, so there's a lot more documents in other pages. And we can see the total time. So the roll-up duration was basically 1.5 seconds. So that's in milliseconds there to bring back those 500 documents. Okay, so that gives you an idea on performance on how we can return those items. And as we scroll down to the very bottom, you'll notice some of those folders as well appearing. So in here, perhaps if we navigate through to some of the other pages, okay, maybe there aren't any folders on that page. Let's just go back again to where we were. So back to page 1. Okay, and here's the folder structure. So notice how we can expand and collapse those folders. So those folders actually do exist inside some of the document libraries, and we're maintaining that document library structure. Okay, so flicking between the views, we can go through to the tasks view. As I mentioned, we can also go back to the documents view, so that's very quick and easy. The last thing I wanted to show you was just some of the built-in styles. So that would just take a minute, and we'll open up for some questions. So in here, what I'm going to do first of all is let's build a tasks calendar. And so we'll change the display provider from the grid view provider to XSLT. So we've selected that. We'll go through and set the current site collection to be the rollup source. We'll also choose the tasks list type. Under columns, I'm basically just going to make all of the columns available to the XSLT. It doesn't use them all, but we'll just make them available. And then notice here we'll have some built-in views. So we've got a calendar view. We've also got a posts view if you're rolling up blog posts. We've got an announcements view as well. So here we're going to choose the calendar option, and then we'll hit save. Okay, so there we are. We've got the calendar displayed on the page, and somewhere in here we should see some items, although I'm not seeing any at the moment. Just depends where I created those items, but you get the idea. We've got the items showing up here in the calendar. You've got a day, week, month view as well. In fact, I probably know why that is occurring. I think my scope didn't include any start dates, so let's just go through and edit an item here, and we'll set a start date for today. So as we navigate back, we'll choose our tasks calendar, and there we are. Task 12 is appearing as an aggregated item for today. And again, if we show that in a week view, we'll see those tasks coming through. All right, so that's one of the built-in views, the calendar view. As I say, if you wanted to customize that, you can. Basically, you can go into Configure View, and under the Display tab, you can basically make that calendar XSLT your own. You can take that and you can customize it using the settings link there. There's also the JSON views. So if we were to go back to the app part, in fact, let's just create another quick one. So there's a number of JSON views in there. So if we choose the JSON provider, let's use search. We'll have a tasks timeline. And so I'm going to choose the items matching a certain content type in here. And that content type ID is going to be task. So we'll select that. Again, we'll make the columns available from our task list. And on the display tab here, we've got a few different built-in displays, and one of them being the timeline display. So we'll go through, select that, and hit save. Okay, and there's our task timeline, so we'll be able to see the tasks by date. We can also see them in a calendar. We can see them in a grid view if we want to. And we can also go and access our documents and so on there as well. So all of that information can be coming from lots of different site collections inside the instance of the Lightning Conductor. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is just open up for any questions that you might have. But if you don't, I'll show you where you can ask the questions afterwards. So if you want to raise your hand, I'll unmute you and you can ask your question, or you can email me afterwards on brett@lightningtools.com. If you have any sales related questions, you can email sales@lightningtools.com. And then also, if you like what you saw, please let other people know. There's the Facebook page, which is Lightning Tools, and we've also got our Twitter handle as well, which is @LightningTools. Okay, so that's the demonstration of the Lightning Conductor add-in. Again, if anybody does have any questions, feel free to raise your hand using the GoToWebinar software. So I'll just give you a minute to find that setting and unmute if you want to. But otherwise, feel free to drop me an email with any questions that you might have. Okay, I don't see anybody raising a hand, so I just want to take the chance to thank everybody for attending. And like I said, this will be made available, and we'll send out the email link afterwards. So thanks very much, everybody, for attending.